Tony used to paint with words. He could describe things out of his imagination, what it could be. And so he loved when he saw rundown places, neighborhoods, and he envisioned it.
This is it.
Tony would always be, I see that there, I see that there. He was always pointing his finger in places and coloring it in. He created magic.
This is the story of a man who turned forgotten streets into cultural landmarks, and how his vision reshaped cities and everyone involved. His legacy lives not in the buildings he restored, but in the dreams he made tangible, the communities he transformed, and the people he inspired. This is a story of Tony Goldman.
So I like to think of my dad as an artist because in a way, he had the ability to go into a neighborhood, close his eyes, and then imagine what that neighborhood would look like in 20 years from now.
We're going to highlight our crosswalks here so that it's almost like following the yellow brick road.
So he would paint that picture, and then over the course of years, he would curate that neighborhood. My dad being adopted really shaped who he was. I think because of this sense of abandonment, I think he felt like he needed to embrace neighborhoods that had been abandoned and infuse all of his energy and love and passion into making those neighborhoods the best that they could possibly be.
And he saw something very special about Soho. So that's where he set his sight.
Tony and I were best buddies. One day as we were driving through Soho, he pointed out this building to me and he said, Marlo, he said, I am going to build the greatest jazz supper club in New York City. And at that time, it was a garbage truck sanitation transfer station in the middle of Soho.
And so the Green Street Cafe was my dad's first restaurant. We had singers, we had celebrities. Nobody was doing things like that.
And it was like the only place that had life in all of Soho.
My dad was a placemaker. My dad had an incredible skill in curating environments.
Tony first saw South Beach as he made a turn onto Ocean Drive, and what he saw in front of his eyes was America's Riviera.
We're talking about 1985. You had Miami Vice, you had Scarface, you had a Time magazine article talking about the decline of Miami Beach.
Nobody believed that there was any way to take these historical buildings and adaptively reuse them. Most people, like the business community in Miami, they all thought they needed to be torn down.
Tony had this business plan that you needed to control the corners. The corners will establish the character of the neighborhood and draw in the other businesses.
South Beach was dilapidated but glorious and unique architecture. So you clean up the architecture, you paint it with brilliant, vibrant pastel colors.
And so immediately, all of a sudden, this largest collection of Art Deco and Mediterranean Revival buildings in the world came to life.
And he brought the fashion industry there. You had beautiful people walking around there at the beach, and it caught fire.
And so that creates an energy. And I think that he had a real skill around creating unique energy that people wanted to be a part of.
And then there's Wynwood. And Wynwood was his last great vision.
Wynwood was the third largest garment district in the United States. And beginning in the early 1990s, it really began to decline because of globalization.
So when my dad came to Wynwood, he said, this is going to be the center for the creative class.
This was when my dad and I really got to work together very closely. When we first came to Wynwood, I found this property and we called it The Ruins because it had 4 walls and no roof. So naturally, this was the perfect place for us to start.
But what he loved was the scale of the buildings. Like Soho, the buildings are low, human scale, he'd say.
Tony said, let's make the neighborhood about the art. Let's elevate street art. Let's celebrate it.
He brought the best artists from all around the world, and especially American graffiti artists.
He wanted to bring all of his love for art and experience of the world together in one place.
He created, from really almost nothing, he created thriving global destinations that have created industry and jobs and street life.
He wanted to make the world a better place.
The University of Miami Masters in Real Estate Development and Urbanism is a unique program in the country.
Tony loved being a mentor. He was very generous of spirit and wanted to share what he did with others. And I think the icing on the cake is the Tony Goldman Endowed Chair at the University of Miami. That touches me because it's such an honor.
I'm very pleased that Tony's name is now the flagship name for the leading professor in the program.
I think when students learn about what he did and how he did it, I think that more people will understand and want to make neighborhoods great, not because they can flip it and make money or whatever, but because they want to make neighborhoods great again.
At the end of the day, our job is to educate the next generation of real estate professionals, of leaders in their industry, of great developers and placemakers. And that's what I see the endowment and Tony's name on this directorship going forward. That's what it's all about.
Thank you, University of Miami, for making this possible and giving us the opportunity to extend Tony's legacy.
If I never had a cent, I'd be rich as Rockefeller, with gold dusters at my feet on the sunny side of the street.